All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of Cronin's Corner. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to have two great guests joining the program. The first is going to be Rick Voutour, who is the Director of Veteran Services and the Veteran Service Officer for Leominster, Lancaster, Sterling. He's going to talk a little bit about his service in the Marine Corps and then the scope of constituent services that he does for veterans and their families here in North Central Mass. So then we're going to be joined by Representative Natalie Higgins. Representative Natalie Higgins is a leader in the legislature on school funding, and she's going to talk about the Student Opportunity Act, the legislature meeting its commitment to fully fund it this session and what that means for the communities in North Central Mass. So two great guests, very excited. But before we start, I'll just give a brief update on some of the things that I've been working on. The Senate right now is taking up its budget on Beacon Hill, and some of my priorities are things that I ran on in creating opportunity for young people specifically to get a path to the middle class, but to make sure that we have programming here in North Central Mass to provide young people an opportunity to learn a skilled trade. And there's 3 things and 3 priorities that I'm very excited about, and they're programs that exist right now in the state, and we really want to double down on these investments. But the first is called the Career Technical Initiative, and the governor wants to quadruple the budget for this line item from $4 million, which is what passed in the House budget, to more than $16 million. And what that's going to allow us to do is run a 3-shift model at some of the current Voutour schools that we have. So kids are going to be able to go to school during the day. There'll be a second shift of high school students who can access job training and learn a skilled trade in the afternoon and early evening, and then there'll be adult retraining at night for people who may be out of the workforce or displaced. But that's going to be a key component to economic recovery and making sure that there's a strong, viable pipeline for talent, and that we're able to provide people good training for good jobs. So I'm excited about that. The other program I'd like to talk about is early college programming and innovation pathways. And Fitchburg High School and Gardner High School are 2 examples of places where there's just some great work going on. And I'll speak a little bit to Gardner High School. 20% of the juniors and seniors at Gardner High School are enrolled in early college at Mount Wachusett Community College and taking credits towards their associate's degree or in a pathway program. And the pathway program is aligned with the regional job market, but they might be in an advanced manufacturing program or environmental sciences or business tech. So great programs that allow our young people in the region to get the skills they need, that makes them ready to join the job market, and really is about creating opportunity and a pathway to the middle class for so many young people. So glad to be joined today by Rick Voutour, who is the Veteran Service Officer and the Director of all the Veterans Programming for 3 cities and towns in the Worcester and Middlesex District: Leominster, Lancaster, Sterling. Rick is a Marine Corps veteran, retired. How many years did you do, Rick?
23 years.
23 years. And right when you got out, you transitioned to the role you're currently in. Is that right?
I did.
Right. So no break, serving the country and then serving veterans. Before we kind of jump in, could you talk a little bit about your service and where you're stationed in the Marine Corps and any highlights from your time?
Sure. Well, I first joined the Marine Corps from Leominster. The recruiting station used to be in Fitchburg. I did boot camp at Parris Island, South Carolina. Then I did infantry training school at Camp Pendleton, California. So I went to school in San Diego, California. And then I was stationed 2 years on Eisenhower, which was an aircraft carrier. Mm-hmm. Then I went to Cape Lejeune with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, and did some more deployments, and stationed in Okinawa, Japan. And then I went on embassy duty and guarded embassies in Djibouti, Valletta, Malta, and Amman, Jordan. That was fabulous duty for a Marine to be guarding the embassies. And then from there I went to 3rd Light Armored Infantry Battalion in 29 Palms, pumped out to the Gulf War, and then came back, stayed there a few more years, and then the Marine Corps sent me to recruiting duty. And then from there I went to 2nd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion at Camp Lejeune, pumped out to Kosovo. We were the first ones doing that. And then from there, I went to 2nd Tank Battalion as a company First Sergeant. And then I was stationed in Londonderry, New Hampshire as a inspector instructor First Sergeant. And then applied for this job and retired.
What's remarkable is just how many different places you are, and over the course of a career, how many different jobs you have. Did you have a favorite? Do you have a role that that you missed the most or that you enjoyed the most?
Probably the funnest job I ever had was as a company gunnery sergeant for 2nd Light Armored Infantry Battalion at Camp Lejeune in Kosovo, and you had to really wheel and deal to do different things to get extra ammo, to get extra chow and water, and like we would deploy to the desert, 29 Palms for exercises, and I would take the people at the supply point. I would bring an LAV and I would let them drive it around the desert, and then anytime a unit didn't pick up their ice, we would get their extra ice. Anytime someone didn't get their ammo, we would get their ammo.
Yep.
Cause you just take care of those guys at the supply point. So that was the most fun that I had as far as being able to, I won't say manipulate the system, but to make the system work.
But you can take care of the guys,
I
right?
took care of my Marines.
And being a gunny's a little bit like being God, right? I'm sure you put the fear of God in your guys. And,
it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So we were talking before we got started that, it's almost 30 years since the Gulf War. And I think about myself. I was in Afghanistan in 2014. It seems like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But you said you're going to have a reunion with your unit?
There's a reunion for 3rd Light Armored Infantry Battalion. Yeah.
And how long were you guys staged in Kuwait for?
So we were in, I got in there right after, we were the first ones in with my Marine unit. I was on my honeymoon in Aruba. We got married July 28th, and we were watching the invasion, in the news, and my wife's like, hey, is that going to have anything to do with you?
The Iraqis invading Kuwait,
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
And
my wife's like, hey, is that going to have anything to do with you? I'm like, no. So we get back to Massachusetts, and I have a phone call from the Marine Corps. So I call back, and I say, yeah, what's going on? And the guy says, hey, you need to be here tomorrow by midnight. And I said, oh, I'm driving. I'm not going to make it. And he says, no, you need to be here by midnight.
You didn't understand.
Yeah. And I said, well, no, I'm driving, partner. I'm not gonna make it. And he's like, wait, what did he say? The way he said it was, if you fly, we're not gonna be here or something. If you drive when you get there, we're not gonna be here.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay.
And you don't want to be the guy that misses the boat for that one, right?
For sure. Yeah. And our job when we got in, because I was with, then I was with 7th Marine Expeditionary Brigade as an ops chief. So our job was to offload all the MPS shipping, the maritime pre-positioning ships. So we offloaded all of our gear, chow, ammo, guns, tanks, everything we had. And then we pushed up. My job as an operations chief was to make the forward CPs. So I would go forward, make a new CP, and then I would go do the other one and do the other one. And so when we went through the breach, January, no, we started the ground war.
It would have been March, right?
Yeah.
The ground war started?
Yeah. So like February, March.
When you left the Marine Corps, do you think you had an easier transition than most, just because you've been able to, your job is helping the guys, like when you were a gunny in the Marines, but to stay in the veteran community and...
Yeah, so I think, I missed it really, really hard for the first couple years. And even now, especially when I see active duty Marines doing something, it's like, oh.
Want to get back out there,
right?
And,
people talk about sleeping, going camping, sleeping in the field. And I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That was my thing. And I do think I'm fortunate because as a First Sergeant of Marines, I was always taking care of my Marines.
Yep.
And now as a veteran service officer, I feel that I'm taking care of my veterans. So it was a good transition in that I'm still involved, but you're always going to miss it. You know what I mean? You're always going to miss it. If you liked it, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. Can you talk about the scope of the services and what your office does and the service area you guys cover?
Okay. So we do Leominster, Lancaster, and Sterling. Essentially, we are required by the state to administer veteran benefits. So both federal benefits. So federal benefits can be the GI Bill, disability benefits, healthcare applications, home loans,
Dependent benefits,
dependents, right? Especially widow benefits.
Right.
We do a lot of that. So anything on the federal side of the house, we do. And the state has a program called Chapter 115, which administers veteran benefits to lower income veterans or their families or their widows. So we do a lot of those benefits, and it's income based. Essentially now, I think you got to have. They just changed it because of all the stimulus checks. But as a married couple, it's under $14,000 in the bank. As a single veteran, it's under $8,000 in the bank. And as long as you have that, and you basically make less than $1,500 a month, then the state can help reimburse your medical expenses,
Right.
or provide income, money for fuel. So we do a lot of those benefits. We also help with the welcome home bonus. Homeless veterans, trying to get them into shelters or into programs, dealing with veterans. A lot of veterans with PTSD issues. We're just kind of the advocate to try to get them to where they need to be.
I think what's so interesting to me is you guys are the center and kind of the clearinghouse to connect a veteran with whatever help they need, whether it's healthcare or whatever benefits they've earned. What's also interesting is, you have each different generation, I'm sure, comes through your office, right? The World War II guys,
Right.
the Korean veterans,
Right.
Vietnam. Is there anything different you see from some of the old timers to the newer veterans, and what's the same?
So what's the same is their stubbornness.
Yeah.
They all want to save the benefit for the other guy,
Yeah.
right? So it's hard to convince someone that they're entitled to this benefit, and they are, especially VA disability benefits. We do a lot of hearing loss and tinnitus claims. Guys that are in tanks and artillery, and infantry guys, or somebody fixing generators or working in an engine room on a ship. And now they can't hear at all, and they have ringing in their ears, and it's like, yeah, but other than that, I'm fine. Okay, but that's a thing that changes your life,
Right.
Yeah. So I'd say that across the board, all the veterans are kind of stubborn, set in their ways, proud. We see statistically more of the younger veterans, the newer veterans, are more willing to file a claim for disability than the older ones are. We are seeing a bunch of Vietnam veterans because the VA just increased some of the conditions, the presumptive conditions. They added Parkinsonism,
Agent Orange.
Right? related,
Yep.
herbicide related stuff. So I think bladder cancer, Parkinsonism, thyroidism. So we're seeing those things come through more now. Yeah.
To wrap up, what would you like people to know about how to get in touch with you? Who should be getting in touch with you, and how to connect?
So the cool thing about Massachusetts is there's a veteran service officer in every city or town. So if you live in one of the towns,
There's somebody for you to go to.
there's somebody for you to go to, yeah, and they're there. So some of the part-time, the part-time agents, if there's less than 12,500 people in your town, you have a part-time agent. If you have more than 12,500 people, you have a full-time agent. So there's some really good veteran service officers out there, especially in the area you represent, and go see them. And if you can't get a hold of anybody, come see us. You can call us. You can come in the office. We do email. We do Facebook. The answer is, at the end of the day, you want to make sure somebody's helping you. Especially widows that the veteran might have served in Vietnam, and he has, he died of a heart condition or diabetes or cancer. Those are benefits available to the widow. Another big program we're doing now is aid and attendance.
Yeah.
Which is, if a veteran is going into an assisted living facility or spending all kinds of money for home care, or a widow, the only requirement is 1 day of wartime service and under $130,000 in assets and income in the bank.
Right.
So as long as they have that, assisted living facilities cost $5,000 to $7,000, a month. the more services, the more money you're going to pay.
Right.
So the VA will give for a married veteran like $2,200. A single veteran is like $1,900, and a widow is like $1,245.
Right.
So that's
Which
money.
helps, right?
It makes them take less money from savings every month, and it'll keep them there longer.
Absolutely.
So those benefits are out there. Again, just need 1 day of wartime service. You didn't have to go to war, just had to have 1 day of wartime service.
And I think what a lot of people don't appreciate too is just the magnitude of the services and resources that are out there, right? I think the VA's budget is $200 billion.
Right.
And I think the hard part for so many is connecting those veterans to those resources that are available and their families.
Right.
So thank you for all you do to do that. I know the region is very lucky to have you, Michelle Marino.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And some really terrific VSOs. So thanks for your service.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And hope to see you soon.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be joined by my next guest, State Representative Natalie Higgins, who represents the great city of Leominster. I am so lucky to be a new member in the legislature, to have partners and teammates like Representative Higgins, who has really helped, whether it's myself and Representative Kushmerek or Representative Kilcoyne, the other new members of the legislature who represent Central Mass, really helped us to try to hit the ground running and go to Beacon Hill and speak with one voice to benefit to advocate for the things that we care about. So Representative Higgins, first of all, thank you for being here today.
Senator, I'm so thrilled to be on your show. I'm so glad you're doing this. And the power of Zoom means you can be in the State House and I can be home at Leominster, and we can do this now.
That's right. Great. It's pretty cool. So I am in my office in the State House because I do not have a good Zoom. Despite us being 14 months into a pandemic, I still do not have a good Zoom background at the House. So I'm glad to be able to do this with you here today. But one of the things that Representative Higgins has been a tireless champion and advocate for is Chapter 70 funding and education kind of writ large across the Commonwealth. And one thing that I appreciate now, having served in the legislature for her with almost half a year. Can you believe I'm almost 25% through my first term?
It's amazing. It goes by fast, right?
It goes by very fast. Yeah. But Representative Higgins has been a leader specifically within the Gateway Cities Caucus and being a voice for places like Fitchburg and Leominster, and not just Gateway Cities, but also Gardner and all the towns that make up our district. And she was a champion for the Student Opportunity Act, which passed in her second term. And she continues to champion for the legislature to meet its commitment, which has been difficult, right, with the budget uncertainty that was brought by the pandemic. But Representative Higgins, can you just give us some background on your involvement with the Student Opportunity Act and what its impact means for communities like Leominster, which you represent?
For sure. So for communities like Leominster, making sure that we're getting the funding that we need, especially for our low-income students, our English language learners, our special education students, that was the heart of the Student Opportunity Act, making sure that those students with the greatest needs got a level playing field. And so low-income communities like Leominster and Fitchburg and Gardner got the resources they needed from the state to be able to get the education that they deserved. And it was honestly a harder fight than we thought it was going to be. And we were really thankful for the House and the Senate coming together with a commitment that our lowest income students needed those extra resources, and we were going to be committed to giving them. Fast forward to 2020, the very beginning of 2020, and the governor's original proposal for the budget shortchanged those economically disadvantaged students. There was a 7-year implementation timeline, and he was committed to implementing every part of the budget for school funding over those 7 years, except for the low income increment, which was being phased in over 25 years. And remember, this is before COVID hit.
Right.
So we knew that we were going to have a fight on our hands to make sure that our kids got the funding that they deserved and didn't have to wait to get those additional resources that they so desperately needed. And I'm a huge advocate of public education funding. My heart is in higher education funding. That's the work that I did prior to running for office. I'm the first in my family to go to college, but a big piece of that, right? Having truly affordable and accessible public higher education, we need to make sure that our kids in gateway cities have a shot at going to college. While Massachusetts boasts the
And those
50
aren't investments we can wait to make, right?
No,
Or
no,
put off into the future, right?
no. So, and it's how we move forward gateway cities and other low-income communities forward. Massachusetts boasts a highly educated workforce. 50% of our residents have bachelor's degrees. Well, in Leominster, it's less than 30%. In Fitchburg, it's about 25%. So how do we actually make sure that our communities are getting those good wage jobs, that they can support themselves, support their families, and support their communities so we can have the local revenue to be able to put into those school systems? So right now, this is kind of that down payment from the state to make sure we're getting that investment in our futures, like lots of the other communities in our state have.
Right. And can you talk about just how meeting our commitment to fully fund the Student Opportunity Act has been challenged by the pandemic? And what the House and the Senate have come together and
Mhm.
have an agreement on
Yeah.
to mitigate the effects, which we didn't really fully understand until we engaged in this budget cycle and had an idea of what our
Mhm.
collections and federal aid was going to be.
Yeah. So last year's budget, Leominster residents know how tough it was. 200 school staff were laid off over the summer. We did not want to see that again. We needed to make sure that there was a commitment. And thankfully, because of the strength of our, our state receipts and the federal aid coming, the House and the Senate agreed that they were going to stay on track, do 1/6 of the money needed so that we weren't losing a year of implementation. That is a huge, important piece of what we're doing in the budget that we did in the House and that we know you'll be doing in the Senate this month. The other piece is making sure that for those students who aren't captured in the latest enrollment numbers, we had a lot of students who opted for um,
Homeschooling.
homeschooling or private schooling, but we're already seeing them come back in Leominster as the schools are opening back up, making sure that we have a pot of money available to cover those students. We don't want any district to be harmed because families were making the best decision that they could with the resources they had available to try to get their kids a good education during the coronavirus pandemic. So that has been an agreement of a $40 million supplemental fund for districts like Leominster and Fitchburg that are seeing their students re-enroll. And we're capturing some of that data now, but we'll get a better idea of it in the fall. And that's when those funds should be available to our school districts.
And a big part of why it's been so hard to count is, I know in the conversations that we've had with Superintendent Deacon and Leominster, so many families didn't send their kids to kindergarten this year, right? And
It's about
held them back.
it's about half of the enrollment drop we saw.
But we know those kids and those families are out there and they're going to come back, and we need to be able to account for that to fully fund our school systems, right?
Right. And they can't wait another year,
Right.
right? So that's really important in just for Leominster, it's about $1 million in state funding. It's really essential that we have that and that our schools can plan for that as they're doing their budget, just like we're going through our budget process right now.
Right. And so as you talk about the budget process, I think that's a good place for us to pivot. So we are taping on May 17th and the House has passed its budget. And so the Senate is taking its budget up next week. We had an amendment filing deadline last week, but I think me and you would both agree budgets are opportunities to reinforce your values and the things that we are advocating and fighting for our community. So can you talk a little bit about what you were able to secure in the House budget and what that's going to mean for families in Leominster?
Yeah, I'm really thankful for the opportunity to highlight some of the work that our community partners are doing around food insecurity. Growing Places, which does regional work, Spanish American Center that does predominantly in Leominster, but has been doing increasingly regional work to expand their food access programs. Also, money to support the Senior Center elevator, which is desperately needed. When we're back in person, I would love to bring you to check it out because you have to go outside often to get to the other level, and that doesn't work well in a New England community.
Right.
And then working with the mayor and the police department for a mental health counselor to support the police department to better respond to mental health calls.
Yeah. And this is something that I know me and you have had multiple conversations about.
Mhm.
And the thing about the budget process is you need to work with your Senate partner or your House partner.
Mhm.
And I'm really excited about the resources that we're going to be able to hopefully commit to our police departments. And we're not there
Mhm.
yet. We need to go kind of fight for that amendment and those resources in the Senate budget and get through conference committee and then get it signed by the
Mhm.
governor. But I think one thing, especially as we've engaged our police departments who, again, have to respond to so many challenging situations, is the need to have a mental health professional out there with the officers
Mhm.
as much as possible to better respond to some really difficult circumstances, but to have the professional background to bring that expertise to de-escalate situations or to be able to divert people to the programs that they need. And I think we have a nuanced understanding
Mhm.
now of the challenges that our police forces go. So I know that's something that you're fighting for in the House, and we're
Mhm.
able to secure resources for. And now it's kind of on to me in the Senate to work for that in our budget too.
Yeah, we're hoping that you can boost that money. It's really important. And Leominster's police department really has a proven track record of having these civilian staff roles in domestic violence, in addressing the opioid crisis and homelessness needs, to really kind of build those connections with the community. And I'm hoping that this can be another position that does that.
Absolutely. Okay, so as I said, I think we are nearly 25% of the way through my first term.
Mhm.
It's your third term in the legislature. What are some other goals that you have as we look towards the next 18 months and this legislative session? Things that you want to fight for to continue to champion and to continue to push in the legislature from your position?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the work that we can do together around mental health. We have a number of bills that I'm working on in youth mental health. I know that's an issue near and dear to your heart.
Mhm.
Obviously, debt-free public higher education is my kind of like big policy goal. The bill is actually being heard tomorrow, May 18th, which we're really excited that the Higher Education Committee has prioritized it for an early hearing.
That's great.
So we're hoping that gives us some opportunities, and many folks know about the work that I do related to sexual violence and domestic violence in our communities. I'm really excited to be uh, co-chairing the sexual violence working group with the Women's Caucus, and I worked with the minority leader in the House, Brad Jones, on getting legislation to mandate the testing of backlogged sexual assault evidence kits in the budget that we're hoping that the Senate will take up, and we can put this issue to rest once and for all. So a packed legislative agenda, really excited to be in my third term and really excited to have you as a partner in the Senate.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for all your work, for all your help kind of onboarding me. And I know I speak for the reps and the delegation too. It has been so good to join the team and have great partners like you who are
We are
leaders.
stronger together, and
That's
it's
right.
really good that we can find so many things to work on in this region. We have a reputation for being really strong working together, and I'm excited to continue that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and can't wait to have you back on the show. If we get extended for another season, I don't know. I think
I'm
FATV might
sure.
cancel us. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know how our viewership is doing, but glad so many people could join us for this conversation, and look forward to having you on again soon.